I got a cool new hat in San Francisco, and there's a story as to why I got that hat. I'll save that for a video in the not too distant future. But in order to get the hat, of course, I had to go to San Francisco, which is what Terry and I did. And I learned a few things about San Francisco in the process. And as you know, San Francisco is one of the most expensive places to live on the planet. But it turns out that visiting San Francisco isn't all that expensive, actually. So we started out our day by hopping on the commuter train. They call it Caltrain. And you can get an all-day pass that's good from Gilroy all the way into San Francisco, and in our case that covered Morgan Hill into San Francisco and back, for $30. On our way.
Not to San Jose.
Through San Jose. And it started out to be one of these days that this is the way it works in the Bay Area, a lot of gloomy days. So, if you're lucky, you'll get a day with some sunshine, and if you're even luckier yet, you'll get a day that's warm. And we ended up getting lucky in both cases. So by the time we made it to Sunnyvale, the sun was beginning to burn through, and by the time we got to San Francisco, it was a beautiful, clear day, and it stayed that way. And it was gorgeous and warm. But here's the thing about San Francisco. I didn't realize that it was that inexpensive to visit. The Golden Gate Bridge, which, we had three things we wanted to do. Golden Gate Bridge, Chinatown, and then I wanted to ride a trolley. And so we started off at the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's free. And it's such a beautiful structure, and you can walk across it. No charge. You can stop, of course, and take pictures. So I got a shot of Alcatraz, of course, and then I caught the Ford Trimotor flying over the bridge, which that plane is actually 8 or 9 years older than the Golden Gate Bridge itself is. So it's, probably actually flown over that bridge many times in its history. But the structure is so impressive. That thing can move, the roadbed can move as much as 28 feet from one side to the other based on wind loading. So I'm sure on a windy day that can be kind of exciting out there. But a lot of people take tours, and these are ferry tours that go out, swing around Alcatraz, etc., and then go through town and all these things. So, that's one way to do it. We just used Uber and went where we wanted to. But everywhere you look in San Francisco, you'll see some type of iconic structure. So we hit Chinatown, and it's real Chinese food. And the waiters and waitresses at the places that we went didn't really speak that clearly, to where I could understand them, because they're used to speaking Chinese, of course. So I ended up ordering beef tendon, thinking maybe it was beef tenderloin or something, just in Chinese. Anyway, it was tendon. It was okay, but I don't believe I'll have it anytime soon again. The texture wasn't right. But in Chinatown, it's just cool, all the architecture and stuff that you can look at. But here's the deal. You can buy stuff there very inexpensively. T-shirts, a couple bucks a piece. I got my hat, which I think is one of the nicer stocking caps I've bought, for like $4 and something. And so it's just an experience, that I would highly recommend. But the fact is that lunch was probably $30 for the two of us, including the tip. And, then the rest of it was what we spent there in Chinatown. But you could just walk around and look around at the place and get a lot out of it. The cable cars are interesting in that I had no clue how these things actually worked. So my picture of the way cable cars worked was that you just hopped on and hopped off at will. That it was sort of a free service for everybody in San Francisco. And that's not the way it works. You know, it looks that way in the movies. And maybe at one time it was that way. But the reality is that these things are there for tourists. And that's the only reason I think they exist. And I'm glad they do, because I loved the whole thing, riding on it. But the reality is that it costs you $7 every time you get on. So if you rode the car for a block and got off, when you got back on, it cost you another $7. So it's one of those things you just do for fun, once or twice or whatever. So we rode it up to the top of the hill, and then we took Uber back to the train station so that we could get back to Morgan Hill by 5:30 and be back with Gizzy. But in the end, you know, the cable cars are kind of noisy and you know, but it's such a cool experience, and seeing the architecture and different things, and the hills of San Francisco, and the beautiful buildings, and you know, it's one of those places that we're definitely going to have to go back to, and I highly recommend it. But don't let the thought that maybe it's really expensive to go visit scare you away from it, because it really isn't that expensive. The food was inexpensive, and the stuff we bought was inexpensive, and the attractions can be free, basically, if you want to do it that way. So anyway, we had a great time in San Francisco, and an incredible, beautiful day, and I hope to experience it again someday. Anyway, thanks for watching.